In the lead up to the January transfer window and the first week or so, because there was a lot of indecisiveness regarding West Ham United, there were plenty of reports that Tim Steidten was going to be taking a back seat in this window. He's been benched by David Sullivan. Sullivan was not happy with how Tim had spent 130 million in the summer transfer window. He wasn't happy with the performance of the players under Lopetegui, and the result was he's going to be back in charge. Tim Steidten, you can recommend players, but ultimately you're no longer the boss of the budget. I think yesterday confirmed to me David Sullivan is well and truly back, and he's well and truly in charge of this transfer window, because I don't believe a word of it. The big story yesterday was that we had bid for Jhon Duran. That came out. West Ham had a bid rejected last week. Villa are willing to sell him. West Ham might go back in for him. Now, the source wasn't great. When that story came out, I thought, I'm not believing that source whatsoever. We'll wait for clarification, because clarification will be given. Already this transfer, and even though we've not signed anyone, there's more leaks than in a greengrocer at West Ham at the minute. And I appreciate when Tim was in charge of the transfer window, there were still leaks. However, what I will say, the significant difference is those leaks used to come quite late on in the transfer deal. If you remember Max Kilman, I remember it came out, West Ham have actually made a £40 million bid. It's likely to be accepted. 2 hours later, the reports were he's on his way for medical. It had been accepted. By the time the press got told or got wind that we'd made a £40 million bid, it was almost too late. The deal had been agreed with Wolves. Max Kilman was at West Ham for his medical. And it was the same with Todibo. It came out, West Ham have gone back in for Todibo. They're hopeful it's going to get sorted. He was on the private jet with Scarfman on his way to London. They were behind. So while they got the stories, they were a little bit behind. And it was at the point where it was a bit too late for other clubs to come in and pinch our transfer target. So there were reports during the summer. There was always going to be transfer rumours. But in terms of accurate reporting on the deals we were doing, I felt they were there. But I also felt they were quite behind with the reality of what was happening and what stage we were at in terms of negotiating with these players. Do you remember that weekend? Rodriguez, Fulk, bang, it was all coming out, weren't it? The Somerville one was on and off. We never really knew the truth, but it was happening. But Rodriguez, Fulkrug, maybe it was Somerville that weekend, 3 players done like that. Rodriguez we were so far behind. It was like, oh, West Ham are interested in Rodriguez maybe. He was in London. We'd already agreed the deal. By the time his name even got mentioned and linked to West Ham, the deal was pretty much done. This window, it feels like it's different already. It feels like we've been linked to 20 different strikers, and it feels like David Sullivan has commented on about 10 of them to various different people. Now, as a content creator, that's a good thing. Thank you very much. We've got the content to discuss now, and it's coming from the guy at the top of the club and the guy in charge of transfer window. So it's reliable. You can discuss it with merit, because that's what Sullivan's saying. But I don't believe him. Because if I was to make a David Sullivan transfer window handbook, chapter 3, not chapter 1, that's about Will Salthouse, chapter 3, I'd call it phantom bids, made up bids, whatever you want to title it, because this is what he does. Do you remember Rafinha, 50 million, Calvin Phillips, 50 million, Darwin Nunez, 50 million? I had to laugh yesterday when the original report came out. West Ham bid for Jhon Duran, 50 million. He didn't even change the price. It's still the same price for the last few years. He's not even altering that figure. It's just deleting the guy's name and sending out the email. Same one, copy, paste, done. The thing is, I do believe we bid for some of those players. I do believe we bid for Darwin Nunez, who then moved for 85 million. I do believe we bid for Rafinha and Calvin Phillips. But I think he bid with the knowledge not in a million years was it getting accepted. We went to Leeds United in a relegation battle and said, can we have him for 50 million, please? And they laughed. They literally took the piss out of us on social media, those two players. 50 million, because David Sullivan knows Leeds were never going to accept 50 million for either of those players, and we bid 50 million for both players in the same window. So, to some extent, what I will say, maybe we did bid for Jhon Duran, but I don't believe we bid with the anticipation it would be accepted or with the hope it would be accepted. I do wonder what David Sullivan would have done if Aston Villa had accepted that bid. I think he just fell off his chair and thought, well, we're going to have to find an issue with his medical here. And we've got Saeed Benrahma's notes anywhere. Can we use that one again? So maybe he did bid. But in terms of actually trying to sign Jhon Duran, don't believe it in a million years. So the first rumour was it was 50 million. There was clarification given later. Actually, it was only 40 million. We bid 40 million for Jhon Duran, but PSG and other clubs have outbid us. So we won't be going back in. Really, 40 million. You bid the price you wanted in the summer. So in the summer, he was available for 40 million. Hamish Chat subscribers have different opinions as to whom is to blame here, whether it's David Sullivan or Tim Steidten, okay? Let's not get into that debate. We all have a different opinion. Personally, I think the error was maybe with Tim Steidten. A lot of people think the error was with David Sullivan. Regardless, we as a football club decided not to pursue Jhon Duran in the summer. 40 million was the price tag. We made various bids. We didn't reach what Aston Villa wanted. We bailed and we moved on to Nicholas Füllkrug, okay? That's what happened. We know that happened. Who decided? Up for debate. But the price tag was 40 million in the summer. We decided against it. But since then, Jhon Duran's been in great form. He's moved into pole position as Aston Villa striker. Before he's sending off against Newcastle, he was starting ahead of Ollie Watkins. He's been handed a number 9 shirt. He's been handed a new contract. Things are going well for Jhon Duran at Villa Park right now. And we rock up and go, hey, we'll give you that 40 million now. The price has changed, you muppet. It's no longer what it was. Well, in that case, Newcastle might as well come and bid 25 million. Whatever we paid for Jared Bowen, 20-ish million. Newcastle might come and bid 20-ish million for Jared Bowen. Oh, you got him from Hull. We'll give you what you paid for Hull. Well, no, the price is at least quadrupled, you mug. But Newcastle wouldn't do that because they know it's kind of offensive and incredibly unrealistic. It doesn't deter David Sullivan, though. Chapter 3 in his book says go ahead with it. I'm sick of it already. It's one bid. It's the 13th of January yesterday. And I'm annoyed with David Sullivan because this is just this fakeness. It's, look at me, West Ham fans. I'm back and I'm in charge and I'm ambitious. Do one. I'm not having it. I don't believe for 1 second that you intended on buying Jhon Duran. And I'm sort of, well, this bid sort of calls David Sullivan out a little bit. We'll go on then. Spend 40 million in January transfer window. So if that 40 million bid is real, that would mean we've got 40 million to spend in this window. Let's see it. Because I will be surprised if we spend £40 million without a big star leaving. I don't think a big star is going to leave. So unless someone's going that we don't know, 40 million, I doubt it. Look at the alternatives that we're being linked to, which David Sullivan continues to confirm for us. Awoni of Nottingham Forest, loan move. Marcus Rashford, loan move. Andre Silva, loan move. Whatever striker that we're being linked to apart from Jhon Duran, it's all loan move, loan move, loan move. And you know what? That's okay. It makes sense. The only other striker that we've been linked to that we haven't made a loan bid for, and it's a permanent transfer rumour, is Latte Lat of Middlesbrough. But the rumours are we're not going to bid for him because Atlanta's come in and bid 15, 20 million and we've gone, no, that's us out of the race. I thought we had 40 million to spend. Oh, you don't think he's worth 20? Well, you didn't think Jhon Duran was worth 40. Now all of a sudden you think he is. We ain't spending 40. I don't believe it for a second. And by the way, can I just say, I don't blame the club. If West Ham were to come out and say we don't have 40 million, I'd think, well, that's okay. We spent about 130 in the summer. I'm not expecting us to spend 40 million. I'm not sat here going, whoa, well, where's the money gone, man? I'm not suspicious here. I think, okay, fair enough, because we did spend big bucks in the summer. And we've already committed to spending €40 million on Todibo this coming summer. So there's a €40 million outlay ahead of us, providing we don't get relegated. So I'd completely understand if West Ham said, look, the cupboard's a bit bare, we're doing our best, but we're going to be in the loan market. If we do buy, we're going to have to sell first. That's all right. It makes sense. But I'll tell you what I don't believe is that we bid 40 million for Jhon Duran. It's just, It smacks of a bloke trying to stick two fingers up to Tim Steidten. That's what it is. It feels a bit like Sullivan knows there was a lot of blowback and a lot of anger from West Ham fans that we didn't get Jhon Duran, and that he's then had to sit there in his mansion with his massive telly watching Jhon Duran banging some bangers for Aston Villa this season. Maybe he sat there thinking, oh, if only we'd got him, that would have solved our striker problem. I know, PR exercise, I'm going to bid for him. And then the West Ham fans will be glad I'm back in charge of the January transfer window, because look at me, bidding for Jhon Duran. Well, if you really want him, money where your mouth is, and pay that 60 million. Now, for a little bit more embarrassment for David Sullivan's claim, and this came from Fabrizio Romano yesterday, it came out that Aston Villa have zero intention of selling Jhon Duran. So Sullivan claimed to other people Villa are willing to sell him, just that PSG have bid more than us. Who are now always saying that Georgian left winger that I can never pronounce, Kvaratskhelia, I don't know how you pronounce his name. I've seen plenty of him because Felix Scotland played Georgia 100 times in the last year. But regardless, that's who PSG are bidding for him at the minute. Fabrizio Romano said, so Sullivan said, oh yeah, they're willing to sell. Fabrizio Romano's come out and said they've got no intention of selling. And I can't remember how he worded it. Top sources have confirmed to me. So he's obviously quite confident. He's spoke to somebody either on the Villa side of things or Jhon Duran's agent, who we know doesn't mind a little bit of that, okay? In the summer, Jhon Duran's agent was everywhere. He did not mind linking his player to certain clubs, including us. So Fabrizio Romano's obviously got that information somewhere and is very confident on it, because he'll look a little bit silly if Duran then goes somewhere else during the January transfer window. So Duran, listen, I'd still love him at West Ham. He was my number one target for the summer. That was before we were linked to him. You could go back and check. Benefit of doing videos. Start of June, I did the video with Charlie, so it was a Sunday morning video. And I remember someone said, is there any Premier League players that could really up their game this season we're in that you'd like to go get? And there was two I picked out. My second choice was Chalobah, who's obviously now at Crystal Palace, and I think performing pretty well. As in, that's my opinion, not I've heard. I've watched. I think he's doing well. Not as good as Lacroix. I think he's been a top signing for them. But my number one choice was Jhon Duran. Would I still have him now? But the thing is, we've missed the boat a little bit, haven't we? Even if hypothetically we could pay 60 million and get him for 60 million, yes, I'd still do it, but it would have cost us 20 million to piss around for 6 months. That's expensive. It already was an expensive mistake because of the alternative was we signed Fulkrug. And listen, I bet you at Villa Park after 15 minutes, Tim Steidten was sat there thinking, see, this is why I bought him. Look how good he is, because he was looking good, and I think he's looked good since his return. Goes down injured, and I think Sullivan might have said, well, that's why I'm in charge of the transfer window, because he's out for the season now, practically. So sorry it's a little bit ranty this morning. I'm already fed up with Sullivan's nonsense, to be honest with you. I believe he's telling people. I don't think people are making this up when they quote Sullivan and confirm the bids. I think Sullivan has told them that, and they're just reporting what Sullivan has said. I just don't believe David Sullivan. Not 1 second. Chapter 3, Phantom Bids. David Sullivan's at it already. We'll see. Maybe I'm proven wrong. And the way to prove me wrong is by spending 40 million in the January transfer window. And if we do that, then I'll hold my hands up and say, fair, we did have 40 million. Still a bit stupid bidding 40 million for Jhon Duran, but the money was there, okay? I just don't believe we will. Because just like the windows where we bid 50 million for Rafinha, Calvin Phillips, we didn't spend that much money. I just don't see it. Anyway, Fulham tonight. On a cheerier note, I'm looking forward to it, actually. Potter's press conference was smiley. It was nice. It was positive. I still think we're going to struggle. I still think Fulham are inconsistent but a well-organised team and one that's tough to beat. A lot of draws, but avoiding defeat. And I think we're just struggling with players. The team news, Panos is okay. Emerson's back in training. He said Somerville's touch and go, but suggested it's more likely he will miss out than play tonight. I have a feeling he'll play, and I hope he does, because if I see the lineup come out and Somerville's not there, and there were sort of only two, attacking players that you know can turn up are Kudus and Paqueta, and even Paqueta's hit and miss, but 2 good performances back to back, bar his diving antics. It's a tough one. I think he's got a bad hand tonight, Graham Potter, but I'm looking forward to it. I'm intrigued as to see what we're going to do, and I'm more confident that tactically he will have something in place to accommodate those absentees, whereas previously I had no confidence whatsoever. Quite the opposite. I was confident we'd continue playing as if we had a full squad available to us, even though we didn't. Whereas tonight, I think he will alter things to make up for certain players being missing if they're unavailable. Anyway, if you're going to the game, enjoy it. If not, we'll be live at 6:25 as a 7:30 kickoff. So 6:25, we're live on this channel. I'm looking forward to seeing what you're saying in the comments of this video. So get involved. Drop a like on the video if you enjoyed it. It's Sky News. I'm chat. I'll catch you later.